Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto died and sent to the My Little Pony universe with Harem? Part 6. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. Upon leaving the castle in the land of ogres, Naruto and the others were leaping through the trees, making their way to the ceiling shrine with Sakura carrying Shion by piggyback. "Your back is uncomfortable, you should try to keep your body more feminine," said Shion. Her comment pretty much irritated Sakura as a tick mark could be seen on her forehead and her fists clenched in anger. Naruto sweat dropped at what he was seeing. She's lucky that she a girl. If it was a guy, she would have punched him to the next nation. Suddenly, an arrow shot out from the trees and struck where he had landed. Then the group landed on the ground and heard someone land near them. They immediately recognized who it was. "Oh, it's you, Teruho," said Naruto. They saw that he came equipped with a sword, a bow and a quiver of arrows. "What are you doing here?" said Shion angrily. "No matter where you go, it is always my duty to watch over you, Lady Shion," Teruho responded blankly. "You're nothing but a burden to me. Now go back to the village." "I will not." "Go back home." "I will not." "Oh. I mean it. I will not." Naruto leaned over and whispered to Neji, "This is going to eat up more of our time, isn't it?" He got a silent nod from the stoic Hyuga. Eventually, Shion gave in as the group were seen running through the mountains as quickly as they could. They stopped for a moment and turned to look behind them, and they could Teruho running a bit far behind, which was impressive for someone who hasn't been trained to become a shinobi. They looked at each other and nodded before continuing through the mountains. Soon the sun had set and night had fallen as they were now situated on the edge of a cliff in a forest. Neji was currently standing near the edge, using his Byakugan to scope the landscape for any signs of the enemy which they encountered. Before no sign of the enemy, his eyes returned to normal as he turned to speak to the others. "We'll make camp here." "But I thought we're pressed for time here?" asked Naruto. "Normally if it were us, we would be able to go for several more days," said Sakura. They turned to see Teruho massaging Shion's feet in a nearby stream, but they have reached their physical limit. "I told you I'm fine," said Shion indignantly. "Lady Shion, the sealing jutsu is very taxing. Please, you need to make sure that you get enough rest tonight," said Teruho. Shion simply turned away with a humph. "I'm hungry. Make me some food." "How picky can this girl be?" Naruto grumbled. He would soon find out when they served for her to eat. He took one look at them and threw them away much to their dismay. "The soup is too cold and I can't eat these or that," said Shion haughtily. Lee was crying and I'm tears at the sight of the wasted food. "I would have eaten those anyway." "Me too," said Sakura. "I'm sorry my lady," Teruho bowed in apology. "Lighting a bonfire would alert the enemy to our location," said Neji. "Don't you have anything else to eat aside from those things?" asked Shion. Neji was about to answer when Naruto spoke up. "I can provide some food, that is if you still want to eat." Shion looked at him with a quirked eyebrow. "And how are you going to do that? Last I checked you don't even have a backpack. All that you carry is that weird sword." On Naruto's back, Kasei no Ha pulsed a bit to show that it was annoyed at being called weird. Naruto reached for a medallion with a smile. "I have a way of carrying my stuff, release food pack." Everyone was surprised to see the medallion glow brightly, and a white orb floated out of it and towards the ground before transforming into a medium-sized container. Sakura was the first to snap out of her surprise. "How did you do that?" "During the time Pervy Sage and I were looking for Gramitsu Nade to become Hokage, he taught me a little about Fuinjutsu," said Naruto as he walked over to the container and was about to open it. "But I read that Fuinjutsu is one of the most complex arts which only a few people can properly understand," said Neji. He would know a bit about it since he was branded with the caged bird seal which he hides behind his headband. "I discovered that I had a real knack for it, so I can create seals for storage, barriers, illumination and other stuff, but I still have a lot to learn," said Naruto. "It's a good thing that I packed some food before I came." He opened the box and reached inside to pull out a couple of containers and a flask with a few cups inside. "I don't recognize any of these food, are they from the other world?" asked Teruho curiously. "Yeah, sometimes I work part-time in a sweet shop with my friend Pinkie Pie, and we bake pastries like pies, croissants, quiche, macaroons and muffins which are my second favorite. I even have some right here so you're welcome to try it." "Humph, I can only hope that they're better than the last ones," said Shion. Naruto opened the containers for Shion to try out. She picked a muffin and took a bite out of it, only for her eyes to widen in surprise, before she quickly finished eating it and went for another. Naruto was smiling inwardly. "Looks like we got another muffin lover." Soon the others joined, and Naruto opened the flask to pour iced tea into the cups for them. "I have to admit that they taste good, but that's all you'll get from me," said Shion, drinking from a cup of iced tea. "I'll be sure to tell Pinkie what you said," said Naruto with a smirk. "You know, Choji would give anything to eat these kind of food," said Sakura. You're right about that, Naruto laughed at the thought of Choji going on an eating frenzy if he were to go to Equestria, except that he would be dismayed if he hears that they don't eat meat, which means no barbecue. After the meal, Shion went to sleep with Neji, Sakura and Lee stationing themselves around her. Teruho sat on a rock near the cliff and watched the landscape. He heard someone approaching from behind and turned to see that it was Naruto walking up to him with a cup of iced tea and muffin in hand. I noticed that you didn't back at the camp, so I saved these for you. You'll need the strength to keep up with us since we're going to be running all day, said Naruto with a smile. Teruho accepted them with a smile. That is very kind of you. They sat in silence as he ate until Naruto broke it. Hey Teruho, about these predictions, how do they work? Asked Naruto. She can only see someone's death if they are an attendant or someone close to her, said Teruho. But if you know what's going to happen, then can't you find a way to avoid it? No matter you try, death cannot be cheated in the end. Except in your case, you were given a second chance to live. Naruto just sat there silently, although every vision she's ever had centered on people who were honored to die for her and did so without question. If they had to fight fate and then tried to live, I'm fairly positive that Lady Shion would have died herself. Naruto turned to look at him in surprise. But lately the people of our land have begun to fear her foresight, going out of the way just to avoid her. So you mean that they got scared thinking that if they stayed near her, she would predict their death? Asked Naruto. Teruho nodded in affirmation. Yes, I can't say that all her visions will all come true. Maybe it depends on the people revealed in them. I see, this whole time she was so lonely. So she hides her sadness by acting spoiled. Naruto thought back to when he was younger in the village, people would look at him with hatred in their eyes and keep their children away from him. To fight the loneliness, he plays pranks just so that people would just look at him. She and I aren't so different. It is indeed a sad story for her. Then what if she said you were gonna die? My clan is deeply indebted to Lady Shion's mother. I can repay that kindness by safeguarding her life, then I would gladly give up my own. Teruho smiled warmly. Nothing can change one's destiny as long as the heart remains true. By the time that they finished talking, the sun had risen and its rays of light shone upon the land. Naruto got up and patted his clothes to remove the dust and made sure that Kasei no Ha was still on his back. Alright Teruho, are you ready to get back on the road? Naruto turned and was about to meet up with Neji and the others when he saw Shion standing behind them. She had it rough just like me, maybe I can get her to open up to us, so he smiled and waved at her. Good morning Shion, enjoyed your sleep. Shion simply looked away from him with a huff, to which he almost face-faulted it. It's gonna be a long process. Shion walked towards Teruho with a sullen look on her face. Teruho, I don't need you. Go back home. Teruho was surprised, but he remained steadfast. You'll have to forgive me Milady, but I can't leave your side. You'll be nothing but a burden Teruho. Naruto was really getting annoyed by this. Will you stop being such a spoiled brat? Can't you see that Teruho has been working really hard and doing everything he can just to protect you from the bottom of his heart? Teruho was silent until he finally spoke. You had a vision, didn't you Lady Shion? They noticed that she winced when he said that. It's alright, you can be honest with me Milady. When my pulse races and I hear the tone of the bell, visions of the future are revealed to me. I heard the chime again last night and your future became clear. If you don't turn back now Teruho, you're going to die. Everyone was silent after she spoke, no one expressed any emotions, and Naruto's senses did not even kick in to help him. The scene then changes to a valley with two large mountains with a river flowing in between them. There are rocks sticking out of the water. Naruto and the other shinobi could be seen leaping on top of them, and Teruho was nowhere to be seen, although someone doesn't seem to be enjoying the ride and was very vocal about it. Look out. Will you stop? I'm going to fall. Put me down. Put me down now. Shouted Shion. Eventually they had to stop on top of a large rock with a flat surface, which was when Shion frantically got of Sakura's back. Are you crazy? This path is too dangerous. Are you trying to protect me or kill me? There has to be another way we can go. Neji, should we take another route? Asked Lee. No we can't, these springs here are the only source of fresh water in this region. Our enemy's group attacks are fire style, said Neji. In other words, the water around can be used to hinder their attacks, said Sakura. Correct, Lady Shion. Once we make it through here, the ceiling shrine is only a short ways away. Please endure a little longer. Fine then, said Shion. Unfortunately, our enemies get to strike first, so stay alert. And no individual initiatives, you got it Naruto. Well that will depend on what happens, said Naruto with a smirk. Suddenly they heard a loud rush of water. Did you guys hear that? Yeah, and it seems to be coming from behind us, said Lee. They turned around to see something heading towards them. A large amount of water in the shape of a giant dragon was flying towards them. The water dragon? Said Neji with a look of surprise. They're coming after us with water, not fire. You were dead wrong. Said Shion. Never mind that now, come on. Sakura carried Shion on her back again and started to jump on the rocks with Niji and the lead on the rest close behind. "We've got to get to higher ground," said Niji as they ran. They ascended up the mountain through the use of ledges until they finally reached the top. They placed Shion down and immediately surrounded her from 4 sides. "We don't know which way they'll be coming from, protect Lady Shion." "Perfect, good thing we got all this water, huh? I thought you were the smart one in the bunch, Niji. You might as well give up," said Shion. "Someone must be controlling that water dragon," said Sakura. "Then we just have to find the user." Naruto closed his eyes aura sight. Then he opened them to reveal his eyes covered in white chakra. He looked around for a moment before he located 2 auras situated on top of a ridge not too far from here. "I found them, they're on that ridge." Niji then used his Byakugan to take a look as well. "Hold on a minute, that Kunoichi was using fire-style chakra before. Although it is not unusual for a jounin to wield different elements, I didn't sense any water-based chakra from her chakra points at all." "I'm going after them," said Naruto. "No Naruto, we must stay right where we are. We're sitting ducks if we stay here, but if I move in on them then I can cancel that water jutsu." Naruto ran off as fast as he could. "I can't let Naruto face them alone, I'm going to back him up." Lee took off after Naruto as well. "Naruto has a point, I just hope that he would make it in time," said Sakura worriedly. "You mean that bushy brow guy and the blonde-haired annoyance?" said Shion. "On another side of the ridge, 2 people watching the group, 2 of them are headed this way," said Setsuna. "Well, that makes it a lot easier for us," said Kusuna. At the other part of the ridge, the other 2 saw Naruto and Lee getting close to their location. "Here they come," said Gitai giddily. "Yup, looks like it. You take care of the Taijutsu user while the blonde-haired kid is mine," said Shizuku. "Are you kidding? I wanted a rematch with that twerp." "Oh well, he's all yours then." Gitai leapt forward while laughing maniacally. Naruto was running towards the ridge when he caught sight of them. "There they are." He reached behind his back and took out Kasei no Ha before leaping high into the air. Stellar gear change. Chakram. The glaive transformed into a large 3-pointed cyclone blade. He flipped in midair and then threw at them. They jumped away just in time as the chakram sliced through the rock they were standing on before it flew back to Naruto, who caught it before it reverted back to the glaive. At that moment, the water dragon had risen from the valley and was about to attack Niji and the others when it suddenly dispersed itself without warning. "The jutsu is broken, Naruto must have done it," said Sakura. Niji nodded in affirmation before he walked over to Shion. "Lady Shion." She looked at him confusedly. "What is it?" He reached out and poked her forehead, which made her slump over as she lost consciousness before he caught her in his arms. "I hate to do this, but I need you to take a short nap." Then he turned to Sakura. "While Naruto and Lee keep them busy, we'll continue moving on. So I'll be counting on you." "Understood," said Sakura before she carried Shion, and they took off into the forest with 2 of the enemy ninjas in pursuit. Lee saw Naruto about to engage an opponent and was about to move in to assist when the earth started shaking, which made him jump back and saw it rise from the ground and the white-haired ninja stood on top of it. "Hey twerp, I'll be your opponent today. This will be interesting, let's how much you fist can take," said Gitai with an insane look in his eyes as Lee took his strong fist stance. Back with Naruto, he watched as his opponent stood on the tip of his toe and raised the other one high into the air, which confused him a bit, but he didn't let his guard down. Music start. Naruto Shippuden the Moai Vost, water above cut. Shizuku smirked at him. Water style. Surface licer. She brought her foot down on the ground, which created a fast jet of water to run through the ground towards Naruto. He quickly jumped into the air over her head and aimed a palm at her. Chakra bullet. Rapid fire. A rune appeared and a volley of white orbs shot out towards her. Shizuku quickly moved out of range by gliding on a stream of water, almost if she was ice skating. Upon landing, Naruto quickly thought of a plan before turning around and running into the forest with the Kunoichi in pursuit. Naruto was moving around and vaulting over the rocks to stay ahead of while shooting a chakra bullet at any given moment. "Do you really think these rocks and trees will shield you from me? I think you're taking this lightly." Shizuku launched 2 jets of water at the blonde ninja. Naruto landed on a rock with his hands and pushed off it to launch himself into the air just as the 2 jets sliced through the rock. "Shielding is not the only thing these rocks and trees can do, let me show you." Naruto was about to land on a slanted rock when he channeled chakra to his feet to perform a Terra drift as he slid down the slope, then he spun around and aimed his hand at her chakra bullet. Rapid fire. Another volley of white orbs raced towards her, which she glided out of the way and responded with 2 more jets of water. Naruto slid out of the way and shot back chakra cannon. He fired a much larger ball of chakra which destroyed one of the jets, but the other one was still coming. Naruto took out Kasei no Ha and held it in front of him. Stellar gear change. Shield. Then it transformed into the defensive armament. He successfully blocked the attack and used the impact to slid backwards to a slanted rock, which served as a ramp for him to jump into the air towards the treetops. "Nice try, kid, but don't think you're safe up there," shouted Shizuku before firing more of the water jets which launched upwards. Naruto used Pegasus Dash to jump higher before crossing his index and middle fingers of each hand together. Multi-shadow, clone jutsu. Several puffs of smoke appeared around him before they dissipated to reveal copies of him which proceeded to attack, but were surprised to see the Kunoichi standing there with a huge orb made out of water hovering above her. Water style. Dragon water whip. Many sharp whips emerged from the orb and raced towards Naruto and his clones. They pierced through many of them and even changed directions to attack many more. "Eyes, defend yourselves," Naruto shouted out. The clones then used their shields to deflect the water whips, while Naruto used a chakra tendril to latch onto a tree branch and pulled himself over to it to get some cover from the water attacks. "I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only one having a slight problem with my opponent." With Rock Lee. Naruto had no idea how right he was as Lee was engaging his foe in close combat. Lee launched a straight kick at Cutie, who leapt high into the air, but he was quick to follow and appeared above him in mid-flip. "Severe leaf hurricane," shouted Lee as he launched his attack. "Earth style. Petrifying jutsu," shouted Cutie right before he got it in the head by a flip kick, sending crashing onto a boulder. Lee quickly descended towards him while spinning and now to end it. He slammed a heel drop kick on Gitai's forehead with enough power to crack the boulder underneath them, but he was surprised when he heard a chuckle from his opponent as he raised an arm. "We're not in the schoolyard, you better step things up a bit," said Cutie. His arm morphed into a rock club which extended to hit him. Lee backflipped several times to dodge, but still got hit and was sent tumbling across the field. Cutie jumped up and launched his rock club at Lee again. "Is this your idea of getting serious?" Lee quickly got up and jumped away just in time to avoid being crushed. "Such density and power, but I cannot afford to lose." He bit into his bandages and pulled to loosen them. Primary Lotus. He charged forward and ducked under the club flung at him. He performed a handstand and proceeded to kick him continuously, which launched the both of them high into the air. Then he whipped out his bandages to wrap around. He grabbed Cutie and dived headfirst towards the ground while rotating at a ferocious speed which led to a large crater and a cloud of dust before Lee jumped away while thinking it was over. "This is boring, so let me get this straight. So you don't know any ninjutsu?" The cloud of dust cleared to reveal Cutie with over half of his body encased in rock like a golem with only his head uncovered. "You really think that rinky-dink taijutsu of yours can take me down? What are you saying then? Your body is unaffected by taijutsu?" Lee jumped out of the way when a rock fist was swung his way and started dodging the attacks which followed afterwards. "I don't know who your teacher is, but he's gotta be one big loser." Cutie was able to connect a punch on Lee, which sent him flying before moving in to finish him off. Lee got up to his feet and glared angrily at his opponent. "Say what you will about me, but I won't let you badmouth my sensei." He jumped and kicked him in the face before leaping high into the air and then crossed his arms. "Forgive me, Guy sensei, but in order to stay true to my ninja way, I would have to use that technique." His body began to emit large amounts of chakra, his eyes turned completely white and his skin color changed to red. Third gate of life, open. His chakra increased and he dashed forward. Fourth gate of pain, open. His power increased further, he lashed out with a straight punch which broke through the rock armor and was leaving cracks on it. Itai was shocked at what was happening. "What the? I am only getting started." Lee pulled his fist back and jumped into the air. Fifth gate of closing, open. He came down with a chakra-infused punch. Cutie crossed his rock arms to try and block it, but it was easily broken through and the armor was shattered. Itai burst out of the rocks with a hidden smirk behind his mask. "Now this is fun. You got stronger all of a sudden, huh? But I'm not done yet. I still have a few tricks up my sleeve." He tightened the muscles on his left arm. Something was moving along it before tearing out of his skin to reveal some sort of purple snake with a single eye. He grabbed its head and tore it off before removing his mask and squeezing hard enough for a droplet of green liquid to fall into his mouth. He swallowed it and suddenly his skin became a tannish color and green markings appeared on his face as purple chakra exploded from his body. Then magma rocks shot out from the ground and covered his whole body before exploding outwards. Lee had to avoid the flying rocks and looked again to see that Cutie had transformed again. He has 6 arms, 3 faces and a tail. He transformed again and his chakra has increased as well. Could it have something to do with what he drank? Thought Lee. Now this is what I'm talking about. He slammed his hands on the ground and some red projectiles raced along the surface. Lee jumped away just before where he stood exploded. More of the projectiles pursued him, but he was able to evade the explosions with little trouble thanks to his boosted speed. Nice dancing moves there. Let's see you handle this. Itai encased his body in armor, but the only difference is that the armor is darker in color, had extended arms and had a demonic appearance. He swung a rock arm at him to dodge it, only to be surprised where Gitai had struck exploded. If I hope to prevail, I might have to open the next gate, but that will put my life at risk. Then Lee reached into the pocket of his flak jacket and pulled out a chocolate ball wrapped in foil. Guy-sensei told me only to eat this in a serious pinch, and this qualifies as one. He unwrapped the foil and ate the chocolate, but then he started to feel rather woozy and hiccuped a bit. Why does this taste familiar? It almost like that medicine I had to take. Hey twerp, what was it you just ate? Asked Gitai, but the moment he blinked, Lee had disappeared from his sight and suddenly he felt himself being pulled upwards. He looked to see one of his arms wrapped up in bandages and Lee was on the other end spinning rapidly with bandages to pull Gitai towards him, then he flipped over and rapidly punched the armor to expose his back. Hidden Lotus. Chocolate bomb. He landed on the ground and bounced back with a drilling kick. It seemed to have an effect as cracks appeared on the rock armor with purple light shining through it. Gitai screamed out in pain before he exploded and left no trace, and Lee laid on the floor all worn out. But Naruto. Back with Naruto, Shizuku had cleared out all of the clones, and there was no one in sight, except for the one she guessed is the original. Looks like you've gotten bored of playing hide and seek with your clones, eh? Said Shizuku. Several more whips shot out of the water orb and raced towards him. You're only half right, said Naruto. 2 chakra tendrils popped out from his back and started attacking the water whips, but one of them got through and pierced. Shizuku smirked only for it to drop when she saw Naruto disappear in a puff of smoke like that of a shadow clone. Then she noticed a shadow loom over her and looked up to see Naruto descending with spinning ball of chakra in his hand Rasengan. Water attack Gorgon. The water orb changed into that of a serpent charged with its jaws wide open. Naruto went right into the mouth, but the rotation of the sphere broke through it and he drew nearer to Shizuku, but when he got close enough, Shizuku noticed that he was smirking before he disappeared in a puff of smoke as well, much to her confusion. A clone. But why didn't it attack me? Because it was its job to distract you. She turned around just to see Naruto attacking with a Rasengan, while another aimed a chakra cannon at her. Rasengan chakra cannon. They both attacked which resulted in gaping holes on her body, but the only thing wrong with the scenario was that she wasn't bleeding, but rather dissolved into a puddle of water. Music end. Ninja art. Water substitution, nice try kid, but you're going to have to do better than that, said Shizuku tauntingly. Man, this is taking too long, I've got to rejoin the others. Hold on, if Bushy Brow and I are each facing an opponent and there are 4 of these guys, then Naruto's eyes widened upon realization. Looks like you figured it all out, we were keeping you away from each other, said Shizuku with a smirk. Dang it, you're gonna pay for this. Naruto ran off to catch up with the others as fast as he could. There's not gonna be a next time, the whole world will soon come to an end. Naruto ignored and kept on running. I hope I'm not too late. Along the way Lee joined in the run. Naruto, what's going on that you're running so fast? Asked Lee. Those guys were serving as a distraction to keep us away from the others, we've gotta hurry back. Together they ran through the forest until they saw Neji and Sakura standing in a clearing. You guys are okay, we found out about their plans and quickly came back, so where is Shion? They neither answered nor looked into his eyes when he asked them about. Fear slowly edged its way into his heart when a certain thought passed through his mind, where is Shion? They still didn't answer him, and he looked around until he saw someone laying on the ground. His heart turned cold upon recognizing who it was. It was Shion, and she is dead. Naruto slowly walked towards the still body of Shion. He was finding it hard to believe that she was dead, but it laid out for him to see. How could this have happened? Asked Naruto. Sakura looked down at the ground sadly. I'm sorry Naruto, I tried everything I could, but I was too late. Naruto angrily walked over to Neji and grabbed him by the collar of his shirt. What happened Neji? Where were you when Lee and I were fighting those guys? Why aren't you saying anything? Stop it. Naruto turned to the sound of the voice and was surprised to see something unexpected. Shion was walking towards them, alive and well. Naruto looked away and still saw the Shion who was dead, much to his confusion. Shion, but how? If you're the real one, then who is that lying over there? Asked Naruto confusedly. It's Teruho, he's dead, said Shion. What happened to him? Neji was the one to answer this time. When we parted ways, he said that he would take a different route to the shrine, in case that he could be of help to us when we arrived there. But we never would have thought that he meant it like this, said Sakura sadly. What do you mean Sakura? Asked Naruto. When you and Lee were fighting, 2 more of those ninjas came after us. Neji stayed behind to hold them off while I continued onwards. But along the way I met Teruho performing some sort jutsu which he calls the shadow mirror body transfer. He used it to transform into Shion's doppelganger and told me that it cannot be reversed. No matter what I said to change his mind, Teruho remained adamant to take her place. But why didn't you at least try to force him to go back home, Neji? It was for the sake of the mission, said Neji. Naruto, think about it, the fate of the world is hanging in the balance, and we have to do whatever is necessary. Had Teruho not done this, then Shion would have been killed and your reason for coming here would have been null and void. I understand, but it doesn't mean I like it. Naruto walked over to Teruho's body and knelt next to it. Don't worry Teruho, we'll be sure to give a proper burial. Teruho was a fool, said Shion. Naruto turned to glare at her for disrespecting someone who had such strong loyalty that even Rainbow Dash would have acknowledged death was his choice. There is no need to mourn the idiot. So you mean to tell me that you have forgotten whom he sacrificed his life for? Be quiet. Just leave me alone. Yelled Shion before running into the forest. Hey wait. Naruto ran after her with the others staying behind to look after Teruho's body. How could you say those things when you know full well that Teruho was willing to protect you, that he would even offer his very soul just to do that? And you wouldn't so much as show a sign of gratefulness or even shed a tear for him or anyone else. Does your heart not feel anything, not even pain? Shion finally stopped before a large tree and leaned against it. Naruto noticed that her shoulders were shaking. How can I not feel sorrow when somebody close to me dies? Naruto was taken aback at seeing Shion cry. Then if so, why don't you? I can't allow myself to cry as that will desecrate the memory of the many that gave their lives for me. But why? Foresight is the power that ensures the life of the priestess. When she perceives her own death, the soul leaves the body and shows her past self the image of her demise, as well as the people who are near in that final moment. She then tells her attendants who believe that they have to die in her place so that she may live. That is the power of our foresight, to sacrifice the life of others so that we may live. Naruto thought back to what Teruho said about the people would give their lives for her and that if they don't, then she will die. So you mean that all of these visions that you receive are warnings of your forthcoming death? Shion tearfully nodded. There are times when I think to myself that I should just so that no one will have to sacrifice their lives for me. But if I did, then there will be no one to seal away Moro and the world will be lost. No matter the amount of pain and sorrow I feel, more would have to die so that I may live. But that doesn't make any sense. Why does your people have to sacrifice themselves? That's how it has always been, it's our fate which we must endure. Naruto was silent for a moment before he spoke. Do you really accept this? Are you really fine with such a fate? Shion simply turned away from him and cried silently. Later that night, they all stood in front of Teruho's grave, prayed for his eternal peace. Don't worry Teruho, I'll protect Shion in your place, and that I can assure you, thought Naruto. Naruto, I need you to take Lady Shion to the Sealing Shrine, while Sakura, Lee and I will wait for the enemy, said Neji. But Neji, she saw his death, maybe one of us should go instead, said Sakura. No, I'll go, said Naruto. But Naruto Sakura began, but she was interrupted by the blonde. Sakura, I came here to help Shion seal Moro away to protect the elemental nations, which also includes all of you. But I don't want you to die again. Sakura was close to tears at the thought of him dying again. Ever since that day I heard of your death, I always felt that it was my fault because I made you promise me that you would bring Sasuke back, but I didn't mean for it to cost your life. Naruto walked over and gave her a warm hug as she cried. Sakura, it's okay, it wasn't your fault that I died. Sasuke is someone I also care about, so even if I hadn't made that promise, I would have still done everything to bring him back to us. Just come back to us this time, said Sakura wiping her eyes. Of course, this is me we're talking about. Sakura, Neji and Lee smiled. Alright then Naruto, shrine is close by so we're counting you, said Neji. Make the most of your springtime of youth, said Lee. You got it, said Naruto. Kasei no ha, you'll have to be at my waist now. The glaive glowed a bit before it floated to Naruto's waist and latched on. He carried Shion on his back and quickly made for the Sealing Shrine as fast as he could. Neji turned to Sakura and Lee with what Lee saw during his battle. I figured out their weakness. What do you mean? Asked Sakura. If there was jutsu which can replenish chakra externally, then it is possible to also absorb different types, but for only short bursts of time, which is why they often jutsu which consumes large amounts of chakra. However, forcing foreign chakra into one's body comes at a great risk. So how do we take them down? Here's the plan. Later on, Lee and Sakura were leaping through the trees as fast as they could to avoid the lightning bolts which were raining down on them from a dark cloud which was floating from above. This kept up for a while until the cloud suddenly turned into water and fell to the ground. Shizuku and Satsuna landed nearby and fell to their knees, panting in exhaustion. It's no good, I'm running out of chakra, said Shizuku as the markings on her body faded, and the same could be seen for Satsuna. Kusuna landed on a tree branch near them. Brother, we need to replenish on more chakra. Hang on, I'm coming. Kusuna was about to move in to help them when he heard something and turned to look behind, only to see Neji standing on a branch in a gentle fist stance. I don't think so, gentle fist. A trigram 64 palms. Neji swiftly moved forward and proceeded to deliver quick strikes on Kusuna's body, with the pace increasing steadily. 2 palms. 4 palms. 8 palms. 16 palms. 32 palms. 64 palms. But the final strike, Niji sent Kusuna crashing to the ground below, much to the dismay of Shizuku and Satsuna. "Brother," shouted Satsuna worriedly. Kusuna struggled to get up, but his body wasn't responding. "Why isn't the chakra prescription working?" he panted out. "I was able to strike all of your chakra points, arresting the flow of your chakra," said Niji before he called out Sakura. "Lee, now's the time." "Jaya." Sakura appeared from the trees and dashed toward Shizuku with her fist beat back, punching her with such strength that the tree which she crashed into was torn off its roots. Lee also appeared before Satsuna and proceeded to inflict a barrage of kicks, sending the both of them high into the air, severe leaf hurricane. Before finishing up with a heel drop kick to drive him to the ground below. The three enemy ninjas laid there unmoving to signify their defeat and the leaf ninjas' victory. "Naruto, it's all up to you now," thought Niji as he looked into the distance. Naruto leapt through the trees with Shion on his back until they stopped a few distance away from the foot of a mountain, where they could see the entrance inside. "Here we are, Shion, the entrance to the ceiling shrine," said Naruto. "Have you been here before?" asked Shion. "Nah, I had sudden vision which led us all the way here," Naruto replied with a foxy grin, only for Shion to turn away with a huff. "Now let's get you in there so that you can seal Moro away, then you can follow your own path of destiny. You can't change your fate. Someone told me that before and I proved him wrong. So I guess I have to show you too." Naruto jumped off and was making his way towards the entrance when suddenly the ground started quaking beneath his feet. What's going on?" The mounds of earth around burst in a cloud of dust, only to reveal soldiers entirely made of stone with yellow glowing eyes peering through their helmets, wielding spears and swords. "Those are the Terracotta soldiers. If they're on the march right now, then that means Moro is somewhere nearby," said Shion. Naruto grabbed Kasei no Ha and quickly spun around to block an overheard slash from the sword of one of the Terracotta soldiers, but he was slowly pushed back from its strength. Then a chakra arm shot out from his chest and dealt a punch strong enough to send it flying back and knocking into the others. He leapt into the air to avoid a stab from behind. "What do we do?" asked Shion. "We'll blow right through them, so tug your legs and hold on tight." Naruto, as he descended towards them, he let go of Kasei no Ha which floated by his side and thrust his palm forward. Chakra bullet shot a wide orb at one of them and landed a clean hit, but the soldier stood there as if nothing happened. "Man, these guys can take a hit. I need to try something else." Naruto landed on the shoulders on a soldier and aimed a palm at a chakra cannon. And fired a point-blank shot which blew its head clean off. Then he leapt into the air again to launch another attack, but Shion suddenly lost her grip on him and fell off the ledge to the bottom below Shion. "Am I going to die here? But if I die, then Naruto and my people won't have to give their lives for me," thought Shion as she plummeted to the lake below. Then she felt two arms wrap around here and turned to see that it was Naruto who had dived in after her. Before they could hit the water, Naruto flipped in midair and used Pegasus Dash to change directions and landed on the shore instead. He carried her over to an oak tree and sat her against it. "Phew, that was a close one," said Naruto as he walked to the lake and took off his headband and started to rinse his face with water. "You shouldn't have saved me, that way you wouldn't have to die." "Well, at least until Moro has found a way to destroy the world," said Shion, looking downcast. "Maybe so," Naruto shook his head to get the water off his hair, "but there's no way I'm dying, you can count on that." "Then that means I'll be the one to go." "I won't let you die either. One of us will be dead, it's just a question of who. The future isn't set in stone, we can still change it. I keep telling you can't chance." Shion was suddenly surprised when she raised her head to see Naruto's face close to hers. "I'll protect you no matter what happens," said Naruto with a foxy smile. This made Shion turn away from him, which made him quirk an eyebrow at her unusual reaction. "But how?" "It's impossible," said Shion without turning to look, which she found odd since she had been talking to him however she likes until now. "If you put a little faith in me, then we'll definitely pull through this. Trust me on this." Shion finally turned to face him. "Trust you?" Naruto gave her a warm smile. "Yes, and besides I haven't gone all out on them yet." Naruto turned around and went on one knee. "So let's go, Shion." Shion got up and walked over to him before climbing onto his back. "Naruto," he turned his head to show that he's listening, "do you promise?" "Of course, I promise on my ninja way," said Naruto. The Terracotta soldiers were patrolling the entrance when they heard sounds of footsteps approaching them and turned to see Naruto holding Shion in a bridal carry and several of his clones running towards them. "Hey Rockies. Sorry if I kept you all waiting, but now it's showtime," shouted Naruto. The stone soldiers stood ready to attack them once they got in close to them. "Hey guys, clear a path." "Roger boss." Two of the clones got in front and an arm to the side, then chakra arms appeared from their shoulders and started to swirl around the hands before a white spinning sphere appeared on their hands. First strike, Rasengan. The first clone slammed his spear into a soldier which grinded into it, sending it flying back into the others and pushed them over the cliff and into the water below. The second clone quickly followed up with his Rasengan and gained the same result, clearing path for Naruto and Shion to pass through, although more came and stood in their path to the entrance of the shrine. "Why don't you blow them all away?" asked Shion. "That jutsu takes a lot of chakra, I can't just fling them left and right like I want to," said Naruto. The one of the clones got in front of them, then he cupped his hands together. Naruto stepped on it and was thrown high into the air. Chakra wings. White chakra shot from his back and took on the form of wings, then he glided over the stone soldiers before landing right before the entrance. He placed Shion down and turned to face the Terracotta army. "Get inside while I hold these guys off." "Are you sure?" asked Shion worriedly. Naruto turned and smiled at her. "I promised, didn't I?" Shion smiled back before she turned and ran inside. Naruto turned to face them again, then he crossed his middle and index fingers and made several more shadow clones. "Alright guys, none of these pieces of rock are getting past here." "You got it, boss." Naruto led a few of his clones to engage the Terracotta soldiers, while the rest stayed behind to provide cover fire. Shion was running as fast she could towards the center of the shrine where Morio's physical laid sealed away. She was feeling nervous about leaving Naruto behind, as she was still feeling fearful about the prophecy coming true. "No, he promised that he won't die. I have to believe in him," thought Shion. Suddenly the vision came back, and this time in more details. She saw Naruto being pierced through his heart by a purple tendril. She nearly fell on the ground panting from receiving the vision. She got back up to her feet and continued to run until she arrived at the center of the shrine, which there were many rocky pathways leading to the center, with lava calmly flowing through the gaps. This is where Naruto dies. Ahead of her, before the platform, sits a man who raises his head and smiles evilly at her. "You look just like Moroku." Then the stone soldiers appeared next to him. "Go and make her feel welcome." The soldiers marched towards Shion, with a few more appearing from behind. Shion ran off to keep away from them, turning left and right to escape them. "My name is Yomi. A long time ago, your mother stood in the way of my ambition. I even wonder if you remember that day. We had resurrected Morio to aid us with his power, and the 1,000-year kingdom was right within our grasp. If only your mother wasn't there to ruin everything." Shion ran as fast as she could from the Terracotta soldiers, but then she ended up being cornered to the edge of a cliff with lava at the bottom. She fearfully turned around and saw one of the soldiers raise its blade to strike. "No, stay away from me." Suddenly her charm bell flashed brightly and shot several beams of pink light, which cleanly sliced the soldiers into pieces. It looks to me that you have learned nothing this whole time," said Yomi. "You're wrong, I've been preparing for this very day. I finally mastered the sealing jutsu," said Shion with a look of defiance. Yomi chuckled darkly. "If you say so, then by all means come and seal me away. If you can, that is." Shion clutched her charm bell nervously, but then she remembered Naruto's words before walking forward towards the sealing area. "You promised that you would protect me, didn't you, Naruto?" She was almost close to it when he spoke again. "There's something you must know, I don't have the power to kill you. But at the same time you don't have the power to kill me either, because originally we were both one of the same entity." Shion was shocked for a moment before yelling at him. "I don't believe you. You're lying and I won't fall for your tricks." "I have no reason to lie. Truth is that the sealing jutsu's sole purpose is to join you and I together. Your mother knew of this but still accepted it." "That's right. Your mother exists within me." Shion let out a gasp at what she just heard. "In order to prevent the abuse of such power, we were split into two entities with different beliefs and hearts, and we faced each other forever at odds. But along the way, one of us became the evil Morio, and we are not bound by words like good, evil, light and dark." Shion pressed on and stepped into the center of the circle. She formed a single hand sign, and the floor lit up in purple light to reveal a symbol on the floor with a barrier being created, and the 4 purple spheres inside the circle slowly revolved around her as Shion levitated above the ground. She went through several more hand signs, then a gate-like stone door which seems to be lying on its back. Suddenly Yomi burst through the barrier and laid himself over Shion's shoulder, which led her to scream out in fear. "But Naruto. Take this." Naruto brought his glaive down and cut a soldier into half before jumping away to engage the next one. He and his clones had been pushing back the Terracotta soldiers with their current arsenals of techniques, but the soldiers have proven themselves to be quite persistent. "Man, these guys keep on keeping on, but there's no way they coming through here." 2 of his clones landed on both sides, then he stretched a hand to each of them as they started forming the Rasengan. Then he charged forward towards the ghost army Rasengan barrage. Then he slammed the attack into them, destroying a majority of the stone army. One of the clones cried out in pain as a soldier was able to strike him down and was about to pass through the entrance. "I don't think so." Naruto threw his arm out and a chakra tendril shot out of it and raced towards its target, wrapping it up. Naruto pulled it back and started to spin around with the soldier serving as a makeshift wrecking ball before letting go to send it flying elsewhere. Naruto crossed his fingers to create more shadow clones as they all armed themselves with glaives, with a few of them switching to chakrams or shields. Naruto charged in and started to slash at them with his clones close behind glaive joust. He dashed and thrusted his blade forward which pierced through two of the soldiers before pulling it out and kicking them away. He sidestepped right just in time to avoid a slash, but it left a shallow cut on his side. Hey. Rare worked hard on this jacket. Naruto complained angrily before retaliating with a chakra punch to the head. More soldiers moved in to surround him. Naruto held Kasei no Ha with a swirling energy on the hilt of the blade, glowing brightly to the side, and got ready to execute his next technique glaive windstorm. He spun on his axis and was cutting down all of the surrounding enemies, with his blade covered with chakra now back off. Naruto stretched his hand and a chakra arm formed out of it, only that it was much bigger than normal. He swung his hand with the chakra arm doing the same, which sent a large number of the Terracotta army back. But he fell on one knee and was panting heavily. He may have large reserves of chakra in him, but doesn't mean his body can handle the strain when channeling. He got back up to his feet and was ready to attack again when he heard one of his clones call out to him. "Hey boss, we need you to get back here and find some cover," shouted the clone. Naruto nodded in affirmation and quickly retreated back to the shrine entrance before vaulting over the rocks. The remaining clones raised their palms and pointed them at the Terracotta army. "Let's do this." Army clone firing squad. Then they randomly fired either a chakra bullet or chakra cannon, which resulted in a cloud of dust from the impact. The cloud cleared to reveal most of the soldier turned into rubble, while the remainder were still advancing. Dang it. They still keeping coming. "Keep it together guys, we can't let them get past us," said Naruto. He was about to charge in again when he heard a familiar voice and saw arcs of lightning tearing through the army from behind them. Lightning blade. It was a man with spiky silver hair with his headband slanted to cover his left eye, wearing a flak jacket, dark blue pants, a long-sleeve shirt, and a pair of fingerless gloves with metal plates on the backhand. "Hey, it's good to see you again Kakashi-sensei." Naruto shouted happily. Kakashi's eyes widened in shock upon seeing him. "Naruto, but how? You were supposed to be dead. Let's save the reunion for later. I've got to go and check up on Shion." Naruto turned and ran into the shrine with his clones, dispelling before Kakashi would call out to him. "Naruto wait," shouted Kakashi, but Naruto was already gone. Then he heard someone land behind him. "Who was that Kakashi-sensei?" A male voice spoke up. "Someone we thought that we would never see again," Kakashi replied. Shion was shivering on the ground, looking at the dead body of Yomi. He killed him to get inside the barrier. "You were too hasty young priestess, you should have waited until he was dead before you put up the barrier." Moro chuckled darkly, then a purple mist burst out of the body and raced towards the stone gate. "Oh no. He's going after his body." Shion got up and tried to stop him from getting any closer, but Moro blew her aside, sending crashing into the barrier which in turn shocked her a bit. "Once the barrier has been put up, neither of us can escape. Until one consumes the other which will be decided by our chakra," said Moro. Then the gate opened finally. "I've reunited my body at last, nothing can stop me now. I have you to thank child, and that wretch is no longer alive to get in my way." Moro cackled evilly as the barrier faded away. Shion fell to her knees and began to wallow in despair. "What have I been doing all these years, were they all for nothing?" "Shion." She turned around to see Naruto running towards her with a smile on his face. "How did it go? You sealed Moro where right?" "Nah Naruto, I didn't deserve to be protected by you or anyone else," said Shion amidst tears. "Shion, what happened?" Naruto was about to approach her when the ground started to quake and suddenly something shot out from the ground. Naruto looked up to see multiple heads shaped like dragons with red eyes and a lighter purple aura, which are all connected to a large purple body. The ground around Shion broke apart as she fell into a dark void below Shion. Naruto raced forward in an attempt to rescue her, but one of the dragon heads rushed at him, with its jaws wide open, only for him to leap high into the air to evade it. Naruto grabbed Kasei no Ha and descended with a downward slash. "Get out of my way." He stabbed the blade deeply, causing the dragon head to thrash around wildly in order to shake him until it finally succeeded, sending him flying into the air. Two of the heads came charging straight at him. Stellar gear change. Chakram. The glaive transformed and he threw the cyclone blade at one of the heads which cut its head off, then used Pegasus Dash to jump over the second and proceeded to slide down its neck in direction of the pit where Shion fell. But then, another dragon head appeared before him and attacked, forcing Naruto to jump off and land on the ground. "Damn it. Shion, just hold on for a bit. I'll save you soon enough." He stretched a hand out and caught the chakram which reverted back to its glaive form before creating some shadow clones and charging forward to engage the demon. Xian was floating in a void surrounded by darkness, then her bell glowed brightly, as if shielding her from the darkness. As long as you possess that light, I cannot absorb you. But do you truly want this? You might not like what you'll see, like the end of this world perhaps. Moro cackled loudly as his voice echoed throughout the void. Wait, I'm still alive. But if I'm still alive, then that means Naruto is about to die. Thought Xian worriedly, suddenly a memory of her past flashed through her mind. She remembered back when she was a little that her mother gave her the bell, saying that it will protect her no matter and that she must remain true to herself. But then Moro appeared with ill intentions to acquire her mother's power. That time Xian didn't have her bell and was attacked, but her mother used her powers to protect, even to sacrifice her own life and pass through time just for her. She opened her eyes and found herself sitting near the lake and that she was glowing faintly with Naruto standing in front of her. Like before, I must have traveled back to the past. Ha! Naruto swung his blade and sliced off another head with the help of his clones, but then one of the dragon heads transformed into some sort of whip which lashed out and slammed into them, sending them crashing to the ground, with the clones dispelling and the original climbing out of the crater. I'm not finished yet. Then all of the dragon heads attacked to finish him off. Chakra wings. He quickly took to the air and performed barrel rolls and flips to evade them. You're too slow. Chakram Cyclone. He transformed the glaive into the cyclone blade again and threw it as flew in an orbit and slashed through all of them. However, he failed to notice that one of the heads regenerated itself and transformed into a sharp pointed tendril and shot towards his defenseless back. So let's go, Xian, said Naruto as he went down on one knee. Xian smiled softly as she got up, but then she took off the charm bell from her jacket. One's fate cannot be changed. Yeah, you keep saying that. She climbed onto his back again, but this time secretly pinned the bell to the collar of his jacket. Naruto. You must live. Right as the tendril was about to pierce Naruto from behind, a barrier in the form of a large charm bell appeared and blocked the attack, much to his surprise. Several more of dragon heads attacked, but the barrier blocked all of them as Naruto fell to the ground, although recovered at the last minute and landed properly. Where did that barrier come from? Could it be that Xian? Naruto's eyes widened upon what he just realized. He got back up to his feet and crossed his arms. That does it. I'm pulling out my ace. Chakra burst mode. His body seemed to explode with white chakra, then his hair changed from blonde to white, with chakra radiating from both his hair and eyes, which strangely enough have his eyes taking the shape of vertical fox slits. His clothes have changed due to the white chakra, making them have 6 blue Magatama markings around his neck, with blue lines along them with a swirling symbol on his stomach, and think of Naruto's first chakra mode, but white with blue lines and markings. Again, 2 glaives hovered in midair by his sides. He grabbed the glaives and connected them, but the ends of the handles which melded together to form a double-sided Nagatana. Then he twirled it before taking a stance. Here I come. He sped forward to fight again. Xian was still in the void, but this time she was without the charm bell to protect her, and Moro was laughing at her. I've seen that power once before. Is that what you wish for though? If so, then I shall absorb you as you watch the people who had tried to protect you perish and the world of man rot away to nothing. I would have been fine with this if I had known that the people who gave their lives for me wouldn't have had to die. Xian sobbed quietly. Isn't that right, mother? A sparkle of light appeared in the darkness and took on the form of a woman whom she immediately recognized as her beloved mother. I'm so sorry, Xian. All I wanted was for you to live the rest of your days in peace. Which is why I sealed your power into the charm bell. It has the potential to surpass even that of mine. I thought that it was too great of a burden for you, but it only meant that I didn't have faith in you. Do you hate me? Asked Xian's mother Moroku. There's no way I could ever hate you. I love you too much for that. Said Xian. She started to glow brightly throughout the void, much to the surprise of Moro. What? How can this be? Said Moro in shock. Now I know why I have this power, and it's to destroy you. Release. Then her body changed form as she accessed the power sealed deep within herself. Her skin gains red markings, her hair turns pink and stands on the end, a blue cloth hovers behind her and covers her arms, and her clothes changes to a thin yellow dress that is nearly see-through. Now I see, your true power was held in that bell of yours. Shouted Moro angrily. Now I know my true destiny. Naruto, I'm leaving the protection of the world to you and the others now, said Xian. She could hear the words which Naruto said to her before. I won't let you die either. The future isn't set in stone, we can still change it. I'll protect you no matter what happens. Of course, I promise on my ninja way. You're a terrible liar, thought Xian as tears flowed from her eyes. The light radiated further with Moro screaming out in pain. You and I will disappear together. Suddenly she heard the familiar sound of a bell and a voice which she never thought she would never hear again. Music start. Naruto Shippuden Ost, heaven-shaking event. Xian. Wake up. She reverted back to her normal self and looked up to see Naruto, only to be surprised he looked different from before. He quickly had her in a bridal carry before forming chakra wings on his back and flying out of the void and into the air. "Open your eyes and breathe," shouted Naruto. "What is that your heart is trying to tell you? Do you truly wish to disappear from the face of the earth?" Xian was too stunned to say anything. Come on Xian, say it. Say what your heart wants you to say. Yell it out for the whole world to hear. I want to live." Xian shouted out so loud that echo carried the sound throughout the cave. "That's right," said Naruto with a smile, then he held his hand out with Xian holding hers above his. The charm bell floated in between and a spiraling ball of chakra took form around it and changed color to a lily violet as well as grow in size. "If you don't like the hand fate has dealt you, fight for a better one. And if you don't feel that you're strong enough to do so alone, then my friends and I will be there to fight by your side." Then the cavern floor broke apart to reveal the giant serpentine body of Moro as it tried to emerge from the lava. "You're too late," shouted Naruto as he held the huge spiraling sphere above his and Xian's head. "Experienced the power of Xian's and my super chakra Rasengan." He folded his wings as they dived down towards Moro and slammed their attack into it. The demon screeched out in pain as it felt its body being torn apart from the severe power of the jutsu. The power of the attack was so strong that it awakened the once dormant volcano. As the cavern floors broke apart, the ceiling was coming down and the lava was quickly rising. Music end. Later on outside the mountain, Sakura, Lee, Neji and the other ninjas were watching the eruption with interest and amusement. "Looks like they ended up creating new volcano, huh?" said Lee. "We should have expected no less from him," said Neji with a smile. "Yup, Naruto is still Naruto," said Sakura. "I still think you guys are hallucinating. There's no way that troublesome blonde would still be alive," said a boy with black hair and tied to a pony in shape of a pineapple. "I know I saw him Shikamaru, we'll just have to wait and see," said Kakashi, looking around carefully. They all heard the flapping of wings and looked up only to be shocked at what they're seeing. They saw the priestess being carried by someone who had wings made out of chakra coming from his back and descending, but what was most familiar was the spiky blonde hair and the whisker-like marks on his face. "Hey, long time no see," said Naruto with a foxy grin. Most of those who hadn't seen the first time were too stunned to say anything, but it was Kakashi who spoke up. "How is it that you're alive when we all saw your body being buried and we know that it couldn't be a fake corpse?" Naruto sighed deeply as he put Xian down on the ground. "A lot happened since that day I died. Tell, I would like to know." "As much of a drag it would be," said Shikamaru. Naruto proceeded to tell them everything that had happened to him, with the exception of Kurama not being sealed in him anymore. "As I thought, you're just too much of a drag to figure out all this time since I've known you. So what happens now, Naruto? This is a chance for you to come back to the Hidden Leaf Village with us. I'm sure everyone will be happy to see you again," said Sakura. "As much as I want to, I can't," said Naruto with sad smile. "But why?" "Because my life here is already over and I've been given a new life in another world where I have bonded with people I've considered precious to me and I can't just leave them." He could see that they really wanted him to come back with them and smiled warmly at them. "But that doesn't mean I won't come visit every once in a while just to say hello. Should the Hidden Leaf ever get into any trouble, I'll come running to help and that is a promise." Sakura smiled tearfully before walking forward and giving him a hug. "We understand, just come and see us from time to time, otherwise I'd come over to where you are, bash your head in." Naruto smiled back and nodded, then he walked forward and took out 6 scrolls, giving one to Temari and the rest to Kakashi. "Those are letters that I want you to give to Gaara, Pervy Sage, Granny Tsunade, Iruka-sensei, Sasuke and the others." Kakashi took them with an eye smile. "There's something I'd like to talk about before you leave." Naruto nodded in affirmation, knowing what he wanted to talk about. He turned to see Xian staring at the mountain and walked over to her. "So what happens now, Xian? Are you going to retire now that Moro has been defeated?" "No, there will always be a need for one," said Xian. "When I was in there, I realized that Moro was born from the darkness of people's hearts, so who knows if he won't return again and again. Then if that happens, then I'll always be there to help out," said Naruto with a smile. "Thank you, Naruto, and I won't curse my fate anymore. After all, I'm a priestess and it's my mission, right?" "You're right about that," said Naruto. Suddenly Xian's eyes glazed over as she was having a vision and images flew through her mind. She saw one of Naruto looking like a pony and fighting a dark shadow, running across the plains as a fox alongside a white wolf with crimson markings, facing down a creature that looked like a centaur, fighting alongside a purple dragon. And finally walking down a road with mares by his side and smiling together. Naruto took notice and called out to her, "Hey Xian, are you okay?" She snapped out of it before replying to him. "I saw a vision of your future." This earned looks of surprise and some of worry. "What was it about?" "I couldn't tell clearly, but what I can say is that you have a long journey ahead of you. But I know that you'll persevere through it all," said Xian, and Naruto simply smiled with everyone else feeling the same way. Later on, Naruto was back at where the TARDIS was situated and slowly approached it. He reached for his pocket and took out a scroll to take a look at it. He remembered the farewells from his friends and Kakashi giving him the scroll after their discussion. "No matter how far apart we may be, my bonds with them shall never be broken," Naruto said to himself before he sealed the scroll into the medallion and resuming his walk to the TARDIS in order to return to his new home that is Equestria. It has been weeks since Naruto traveled to his old world and had a reunion with some of his old friends, as well as helped them defeat a demon. Right now he is sitting in a forest holding a leaf in between his hooves and eyes are closed as he concentrated on his chakra to cut it in half. Naruto opened his eyes and opened his hooves to look at the leaf, which had a slight cut at the side, and let out a sigh. He turned to look at a scroll which laid out unraveled as he read the instructions for the current training. According to the scroll which Kakashi-sensei gave me, I should produce an image of my wind chakra slicing through the leaf in my mind. If only I could use my shadow clones, but my body is still recovering from the strain of using the chakra burst mode, although the recovery time has reduced from a couple of months to several weeks since I'm getting used to it. Naruto thought back to the conversation which he had with Kakashi before he returned to Equestria. Flashback. Naruto was standing with Kakashi at a small clearing away from the others for a private conversation. "Naruto, there's also something that I wish to know about. If you were reborn in another world, then what happened to the QB?" asked Kakashi. "When I met Kami, she asked me what I wanted her to do with his soul. I simply told her that I wanted him to be sent back to the Makai world where he belonged," said Naruto. "But why ask for that when you could ask for it to be destroyed? It's what it deserves for attacking the village and making the people hate you for something you weren't responsible for. If it were any other case then I would have said that, but the thing is that he wasn't doing it of his own free will," said Naruto, which confused Kakashi. "What do you mean by the fox not attacking on its own? You're making it sound like it was controlled to attack the village." "That's exactly it, think about it, Kakashi-sensei. Has there ever been records of a Biju actually attacking villages just like that?" Kakashi thought deeply and realized what Naruto meant. There never has been any word of that happening before their own. "Not only that, Kami told me that QB was sealed inside my mother, but someone attacked her when she was giving birth to me and extracted him from the seal before controlling him to attack the village." Kakashi's eye widened in shock at what he had just wait. "You know who your mother is?" "Yes, and I also know that the fourth was my father and that he sealed the QB inside of me. There's no way he would sacrifice another parent's child for the sealing aside from his own. Which brings me to ask why no one told me," asked Naruto while looking sternly at Kakashi who was looking away from him. "The third ordered us to keep the knowledge of your legacy a secret as your father had made many enemies during the war. Should they have heard of your existence, they would have done everything just to kill you for revenge," said Kakashi. "I figured that out as well, but still had you told me, I would have kept silent about it. You should have known that there's nothing more important to an orphan than to know who their parents are and if they loved them." "I'm sorry, but I was under orders as much you needed to know," said Kakashi sadly. Naruto continued to glare at him, and before he let out a sigh and a small smile appeared on his face. "Well, it's all in the past now, and like I said before, I'm living a new life," said Naruto. Kakashi looked relieved at that before frowning again. "But what about the Akatsuki? Won't they go after it?" "I thought of that too, but they don't know that QB is in the Makai world and I doubt they can get to him since Kami was the one to send him there. Hopefully that will interfere with whatever they are planning. I'll be sure to let Lady Tsunade and Master Jiraiya know," said Kakashi. Then he took a piece of paper out of his ninja pouch and gave it to Naruto who looked at it confusedly. "What's this for?" "That is called chakra paper, which is made from a special type of tree. One uses it to learn of the affinity that his chakra has to an element. Let me show you." Kakashi took another piece of the chakra paper and held it out. Naruto was surprised to see the paper suddenly wrinkle before his eyes. The chakra paper has different reactions to what type one is. For example, for fire it burns and turn into ash, for wind it will split in half, for lightning it will wrinkle, for earth it will turn to dirt and crumble away, and for water it becomes soggy. Naruto nodded in understanding of what he said. "I think I get it, let's find out what elemental affinity I have." He channeled his chakra into the paper and it split in half. "Well, this is interesting, you have an affinity for wind," said Kakashi. "What do you mean by that?" asked Naruto. "Well, most ninjas in the hidden leaf have an affinity for fire, but for you to have an affinity for wind makes you the second wind user, with the first being Asuma Sarutobi who is the third son." Naruto grinned excitedly. "Dude, I sound so awesome right now." Kakashi simply smiled at him. "There's something else you should know about the Rasengan. As you recall, it took your father 3 years to create and master the jutsu, but the thing is that the jutsu itself is incomplete." "What you mean by that?" "The reason I'm saying that is because he wanted to infuse his elemental affinity into it, which could have resulted in a jutsu that could be higher than an S rank. I tried to do the same, but I failed and rather ended up creating the lightning blade jutsu." But I believe you can do it since you've been known to make the impossible possible. Naruto thought deeply about it to make an already powerful jutsu even more powerful. Now that's something I can work for. Kakashi nodded in approval before they returned to the group. Flashback end. The day he left, Kakashi had used his summons to collect a few things from the village and put them in the scroll which contained smaller scrolls for wind manipulation exercises, wind jutsus, a few photos, a strange-looking knife which he says was a gift which he received from his father but felt that he deserves to have it. He sealed the photos and odd kunai away in a hidden compartment in his workshop until he feels ready to bring them out later. Well, I guess that's all I can do for today. I might as well head home and rest a little bit more. The sooner I recover then the sooner I can train more seriously. Naruto sealed the scroll into his medallion and made his way out of the forest. Along the way he heard voices through the trees which sounded familiar. I know those voices, I wonder what they're up to. He broke into a gallop in direction of the voices until he came upon Scootaloo riding on her scooter with a wagon hooked to it and Sweetie Belle and Apple Bloom sitting inside. Hey girls. Hi big bro, we haven't seen you at home. Where have you been today? Asked Scootaloo while the other fillies waved at him. I was doing a little training in the forest and was on my way home when I heard your voices, so I thought to come and see how you're doing, said Naruto, and he galloped alongside them. Well, we tried to find out if we could get our cutie marks by zip-lining, but it was another dead end. So Scootaloo came up with this great idea that we should ask Rainbow Dash about how she got her cutie mark so that we can figure out how we can get our own, said Apple Bloom. How about you come with us Naruto? I'm sure you're curious about it too, said Sweetie Belle. Now that you girls mentioned it, I've always been curious about how one gets their cutie marks. So you can count me in on this, said Naruto with a thoughtful look before breaking into a smile. Yay. The cutie mark crusaders cheered happily. At that moment, a trio of rabbits hopped appeared in the middle of the road while holding apples, forcing Scootaloo to hit the brakes to avoid a collision. Phew. That was close. Scootaloo wiped the sweat off her forehead as a sign of relief, then they heard something rustling through the bushes as the rabbits quickly hopped away. Get back here you thieving varmints. A familiar voice yelled out. Doesn't it sound like Apple Bloom didn't get finished talking as some pony burst out of the bushes and was about to crash into the fillies had it not been for Naruto to quickly use his tail and grab her in midair to prevent that from happening. Hey AJ, what brings you around here? Asked Naruto with a quirked eyebrow as he placed Applejack gently on the ground. Oh hello every pony, I was chasing after those darn rabbits who made off with my apples from the orchard when I almost ran into you girls, said Applejack looking sheepish, then Apple Bloom noticed her cutie mark. Hey sis, how did you get your cutie mark? Asked Apple Bloom. You mean I didn't tell that story? Said Applejack. But I thought we were going to ask Rainbow Dash. Said Scootaloo confusedly. I thought that if we hear her story aside from Rainbow Dash, we might learn more about how we can get our cutie marks, said Apple Bloom. That's a good idea Apple Bloom, plus I kinda want to know about it too, said Naruto. Okay fine, Scootaloo grumbled. Well it all started back when I was a little filly, even littler than the three of you, Applejack began her tale. Note, the voiceovers will be in bold for the flashbacks. Flashback start. Young Applejack is seen walking away from Sweet Apple Acres while carrying her belongings in a bundle of cloth with Granny Smith and Big Mac, sadly watching her leave with tears in their eyes. I didn't want to spend my life in a muddy old farm. I wanted to live the sophisticated life, like my aunt and Uncle Orange. So I set out to try my luck in the big city, Manhattan. The most cosmopolitan city in all of Equestria, said Applejack. Young Applejack soon found herself in Manhattan as she looked the sights in awe, although she had to move out of the way of a stallion who called her a rube. I knew I'd find out who I was meant to be in Manhattan. Then she followed the address on the letter which she received from her aunt and uncle. She found herself knocking at the door which opened to reveal her relatives who smiled upon seeing her. Aunt Orange. Uncle Orange. Thank you for letting me stay. Said young Applejack happily. Aunt Orange laughed a bit. You'll, isn't she just the living end? Uncle chuckled in agreement. How quaint. Don't worry, we'll be having you acting like a true Manhattanite in no time. And they started by changing Applejack's hairstyle, taught her how to speak and act around high-class ponies, as well as their mannerism. Afterwards, they brought her along to a dinner party in order to mingle with their guest. And how are you finding good old Manhattan? Asked a gentle stallion who goes by the name Tall Order. Oh, it's simply divine, said young Applejack in an aristocratic tone. Very well said, my dear, said Aunt Orange while smiling in approval. Although I must admit the city noise took some getting used to. Where I'm from, nights are so quiet, you seldom hear a peep until the rooster wake you. This statement drew looks of confusion from the ponies at the table, while Applejack started to sweat inwardly. The what? Asked a mare. I say my dear, what in the world is a rooster? Asked Tall Order curiously. What's he talking about? What do I say? I don't want to look like a fool, said Applejack. Fortunately, it was at that moment that the servant came in while levitating platters of food, much to Applejack's relief. Dinner is served, said the pony as he set the plates on the table. Thank goodness, being a city pony's hard work. I'm so hungry I could eat. She trailed off when the serving dome was lifted for her to see a minuscule amount of food on the table, much to her surprise and dismay. Later that night, she's sitting in her room and looking out the window as she watched the sun rise from behind the mountains. Oh, I wonder how Granny Smith and Big Mac are doing right now. Probably apple bucking there through the red delicious trees. Oh, what I wouldn't give for just one bite. I had never felt so homesick in all of my days as I did right then. Suddenly she heard an explosion and looked up to see something amazing. What I saw right then was a rainbow that was pointing right back to home. Young Applejack then had a look of realization before smiling happily as she galloped out of her room and homewards. It had all become clear to me. I knew right then just who I'm supposed to be. Soon she got to the gates of Sweet Apple Acres and jumped into the welcoming hooves of Granny Smith and Big Mac. And it was at that moment a cutie mark of 3 red apples appeared on her flank. Flashback end. And that's how this here appeared, and I've been happily working in the farm ever since. Applejack finished her story before looking at her cutie mark happily. That was a great story, AJ, and I'm happy that you found something which you're good at and content with, said Naruto with a smile. Thanks, Naruto. Applejack smiled. Then she saw the bunnies from earlier blowing raspberries at her before running off. Get back here, you thieving varmints. She ran after them while Naruto looked on in amusement. Aw, that was such a sweet story, said Sweetie Belle. I'll say, said Applebloom. Sweet. Try sappy. Come on, let's go find Rainbow Dash and learn the cool way to earn a cutie mark, said Scootaloo as she got on her scooter with the other 2 getting into the wagon before they took off with Naruto running alongside them. They moving along the road when Naruto suddenly called out to them. Hey girls, slow down. There's some pony ahead of us, said Naruto. They were confused at what he said but decided to listen to him as they slowed down, and it was at that moment when Fluttershy appeared in the middle of the road before they stopped completely just as a family of ducks walking across the road to the side. Whoa, how did you know that Fluttershy was around? Asked Scootaloo. As a ninja, I was trained to always be aware of my surroundings at all times, which was I told you to slow down since I sensed Fluttershy ahead of us, said Naruto. And it's a good thing he told you that or some pony could have gotten hurt. Where are you all off to? Fluttershy asked curiously. We're trying to find Rainbow Dash so that we can hear how she got her cutie mark, said Scootaloo. Oh, that would be interesting. You know, I wouldn't have gotten my cutie mark if it weren't for her. Rainbow Dash. Really? Scootaloo was the only one interested as it piqued Naruto's as well. Can we hear about it, Shy? We'd like to know, said Naruto. Of course, it all started back at Summer Flight Camp. Fluttershy began her story. Flashback start. You'd never guess, but when I was little I was very shy. And a very weak flyer, said Fluttershy. Young Fluttershy looked around the camp to see her fellow Pegasus flying through the obstacle course with speed and skill. She looked up to see a loop made out of clouds. She flapped her wings as hard as she could until she lifted off the ground and was able to reach the loop. She smiled at her achievement, but then her 4 hooves hit the loop which made her lose her balance and ended up sliding down a cloud and got entangled in a flag before hitting the bottom. 2 male Pegasus saw what happened and began to laugh at her. Nice going, Klutzershy. They gotta ground you permanently, said the dark brown pony who goes by the name Dumbbell. His friend Hoops added in ha. My baby brother can fly better than you. It was the most humiliating moment of my life. And then, out of nowhere, they suddenly heard something zipping through the sky before some pony landed before who turned out to be Rainbow Dash when she was young. Leave her alone, said young Rainbow Dash with a glare. Oh, what are you gonna do? Rainbow Crash, said Hoops tauntingly. Keep making fun of her and find out. You think you're such a big shot. Why do you prove it? Said Dumbbell. Rainbow Dash smirked at them. What do you have in mind? Later on, they were standing at the starting line with young Fluttershy holding the flag and many other ponies were there to watch. You're going down, said Hoops. In history, maybe. See you boys at the finish line, said young Rainbow Dash. When Fluttershy waved the flag to signal the start of the race, they took off but sped by so quickly that sent Fluttershy spinning off the cloud and plummeting to the ground below. Try as she might, but she couldn't even flow down her fall despite flapping her wings as hard as she could. She closed her eyes and braced for impact, then she felt herself fall on something soft. She opened her eyes to find herself on top of a large swarm of butterflies. I have never seen such beautiful creatures. Butterflies don't fly as high as my cloud home, and I've never been near to ground before, said Fluttershy. She didn't know what came over her, but Fluttershy began to sing, and many animals gathered around to listen to her with looks of content. Then all of a sudden, there was loud explosion which frightened the animals, causing them to run and hide. Fluttershy was at first surprised before a look of determination appeared on her face. She walked over to a nearby bush and lifted it to reveal a trio of bunnies quivering in fear. "Shh, it's okay, there's nothing to be afraid of. Everything will be just fine." Fluttershy coaxed the squirrels in the oak tree, the frogs in the pond, and the birds in the sky. They all gathered around her, having been completely calmed from the sudden noise. It was then a cutie mark of 3 pink butterflies appeared on her flank. "Somehow I had the ability to communicate with animals on a different level," said Fluttershy. Flashback end. Wait. What happened to Rainbow Dash? What happened to the race?" asked Scootaloo. "If you were listening to the story, Scoots, Shy wasn't there to witness the race, so she won't know what happened back then," said Naruto. Then he started to frown. "But those 2 ponies better not run into me, cause I'll be sending them into a school of hard knocks." Fluttershy tried to calm the blonde stallion down. "It's all in the past now, Naruto, there's no need for you to do that." Naruto frowned a bit before letting out a sigh and smiling at Fluttershy. "Okay, Shy, if you say so," but then he thought, "but that doesn't mean I won't prank them, I'm sure Dash would want in on it too." "Come on, Crusaders, big bro, we've got to find her and know more about it. And I don't think I can take any more singing," said Scootaloo as Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle got on the wagon. "Maybe my sister knows," said Sweetie Belle. Then they headed towards the Carousel Boutique by Fluttershy. "We'll see you around, Shy," said Naruto before galloping after the girls. "Aye," Fluttershy waved as she watched them leave. Although the group found Rarity at her shop, the girls ended up serving as her mannequins, since Rarity had a sudden inspiration to create a certain style of clothing for young fillies, and Naruto watched silently, not wanting to get dragged in. "How did we get roped into this? We'll never hear Rainbow Dash's story," Scootaloo grumbled. "Are you girls still obsessing over your cutie marks?" asked Rarity. "Of course, most of the fillies at school already have theirs," said Sweetie Belle. "Now that they mentioned it, how did you get your cutie mark, Rare?" asked Naruto with tilt his head. Rarity fought the urge to glomp him at the cuteness which he was displaying, which gave the impression of a cute fox with his whisker marks. "I was just like the girls when I couldn't figure out why I didn't have my cutie mark," said Rarity as she thought back to her days as a young filly. Flashback start. The play was to be held at school, and young Rarity was in charge of the costumes for the cast to put on. At the moment they were rehearsing while she was backstage with her teacher as they watched. "Well done, Rarity, your costumes are very nice," said the teacher, but Rarity wasn't so easily convinced. "Nice, they're supposed to be spectacular. And the performance is tomorrow," said young Rarity. Later on, she was at her workroom trying to make the perfect costumes for the show, but none of them seemed to live up to her expectations. "I tried every trick I could think of, but none of it seemed to work. The costumes weren't right and the play opened that night," said Rarity. Young Rarity let a sigh as she felt very depressed. "Maybe I'm not meant to be a fashionista after all." Suddenly her horn lit up and proceeded to drag in certain direction, much to her surprise. "What's going on? I had no idea where my horn was taking me. But unicorn magic doesn't happen without a reason. I knew this had to do with my love of fashion and maybe my cutie mark. I knew that this was my destiny." After being dragged to who knows where, the horn stopped glowing and young Rarity found herself standing in a craggy area. She looked up to see a large rock towering over her. "A rock, that's my destiny," young Rarity said angrily. "What is your problem, horn? I followed you all the way here for a rock." She glared at a dumb rock. Then there was a loud explosion which made her yelp in surprise. There was a crackling sound, and Rarity looked up to see the cracks run through the rock before it broke apart. With her curiosity getting the better of her, Rarity looked inside the rock to see a trove of gems which sparkled in the sunlight, making her smile as it gave her an idea. Later that night, the play had commenced. Audience watched in awe as the cast were wearing the costumes which Rarity had as they had the sparkling gems attached to them. Rarity watched from the backstage with her teacher who was smiling in approval, then she noticed a cutie mark of 3 diamonds on her flank. Flashback end. Ugh. These nammy-pammy stories aren't getting us anywhere close to our cutie marks. They're all about finding out who you really are and boring stuff like that, said Scootaloo. But isn't that what having a cutie means? To find something that you're truly good at? Said Naruto with a quirked eyebrow. It makes me sometimes wonder what mine means, since it appeared during battle with Nightmare Moon. That right, dear, that's exactly. Rarity didn't get to finish as Scootaloo is seen shoving Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle out of the room. Come on, girls. We need action. We need Rainbow Dash. Naruto turned to face Rarity and rubbed the back of his head while looking sheepish. Sorry about that, Rare, but you know how much Scoots looks up to Dash aside from me. It's no problem, dear, but I do hope that you come back soon. I have some dresses which I hope you would try on for me, said Rarity with smile, while Naruto turned away to hide the blush on his face. Come on, Rare, at the rate you keep making me wear those dresses, I might end up forgetting my original gender, Naruto whined before leaving with Rarity, trying not to giggle at how childish she was acting. Naruto came out of the boutique and saw that the girls had already left without him. I might as well find them, or a sight. His eyes glowed wide as he looked around before picking up 3 familiar signatures in a restaurant along with another. He galloped over to where they are and entered the restaurant just to see the fillies at the table listening to Twilight, although Scootaloo looked bored out of her mind. "Oh, there you are, Naruto, I was just telling them how I got my cutie mark," said Twilight. "Sure thing, Twilight, let's hear it." Naruto sat by the others to listen to her story. "Now, as I was saying, as a young filly in Canterlot, I always wanted to go to the summer sun celebration. Flashback start. And it was there I saw the most amazing, most wonderful thing I've ever seen," said Twilight. At the fairgrounds of Canterlot, many ponies were having fun, like playing games, riding on carousels, and eating snacks from stalls. Then the royal guards blew through large golden trumpets, and every pony had gathered before a large platform with a statue of the sun on it. Young Twilight was making her way through the crowd in order to get a better view. She got excited upon seeing Princess Celestia appear on top of the platform in front of the statue. As Princess Celestia slowly rose to the air, the ponies could see the sun rise and sink before releasing a heavenly radiance which made them gasp in awe, more so on Twilight. "I poured myself into learning everything about magic," said Twilight. Young Twilight could be seen in her room surrounded by huge stacks of books which obviously contains information about all kinds of magic, and was even practicing a few of them. "Thus I spent every day and night reading through my books, learning many new things." Then she heard her parents coming in and went to meet them. She saw her father holding an approval letter. "My parents decided to enroll me in Princess Celestia's school for gifted unicorns. It was a dream come true." Twilight started jumping for joy at being accepted to such a prestigious school and couldn't wait to go there. "Except for one thing, I had to pass an entrance exam." Young Twilight is now seen standing in the middle of a classroom looking very nervous as one of the teachers wheeling in a cart which had a dragon egg on it. "In order to pass the test, you have to hatch from the egg," said one of the teachers who were serving as the proctors of the entrance exam. Young Twilight gulped nervously and took a glance at her parents who were smiling to give her encouragement. She smiled a bit and turned to face the egg. Twilight closed her eyes as she tried to focus her magic, but only tiny sparks came out of the horn. She kept trying to use her magic, but to no avail. "We don't have all day," said the teacher. "I knew that this was the most important day of my life, that my entire future would be affected by the outcome of this day, and I was about to blow it," said Twilight. After many tries, young Twilight let out a sigh of resignation. "I'm sorry for wasting your time." Suddenly there was an explosion which startled her, causing her magic to surge out of control as her eyes glowed and she levitated from the ground. Streaks of magic shot out of her horn, hitting everything like the dragon egg which hatched a baby dragon, but increased his size to massive proportions, to the point of breaking through the school building. Her parent got turned into potted plants among other things. She felt some pony place a hoof on her shoulder and turned to see that it was none other Princess Celestia herself. This in turn calmed her down enough for the magic to undo itself and the surge to stop. "Twilight sparkle," said Princess Celestia. The young filly was a bit frightened because of what happened earlier. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean." She was about to apologize. "You have a very special gift. I don't think I've ever come across a unicorn with your talents," the princess said instead. "Huh? But you need to tame these abilities through focused study." "Huh? Twilight sparkle, I'd like to make you my protege here at the school." "Huh?" This time Twilight was truly surprised. "Well?" asked Princess Celestia. Twilight took a glance at her parents who were nodding excitedly for her to accept. "Yes." Young Twilight jumped round happily at being accepted. "One other thing, Twilight." She stopped to see Celestia pointing her hoof at something and turned to look, only to see a cutie mark of a star pattern. "My cutie mark?" Yes. Flashback end. Yes. Twilight was jumping just as excitedly. "Twilight, calm down, you're getting too much into your storytelling," said Naruto as he used his tail to wrap around her. Every pony in the restaurant were watching them. Twilight finally became aware of her surroundings and her face turned red from embarrassment. "Oh, sorry about that, I guess I got carried away." "I understand how you feel, since I felt the same way when I received my headband," said Naruto, though he felt a bit sad that he didn't have it with him anymore anyway. "The girls and I have to get going since we're still looking for Dash." "Okay, Naruto, I'll see you later." Later on, Naruto and the fillies were moving through the streets in search of Rainbow Dash. "Why don't we ever crash into Rainbow Dash?" said Scootaloo. "How about we ask our newest passenger since she knows every pony and where they could be," said Naruto. The fillies turned to see Pinkie Pie riding in the wagon with them. "Looks you found me again, Naru, but he's right. If I was her, I would be at Sugar Cube Corner. Of course I was anyone, I would be at Sugar Cube Corner. Hey, I have an idea, wanna go to Sugar Cube Corner?" Pinkie Pie had leaned back too far and almost fell off the wagon, had it not been for Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle to catch her in time. We could pass by there, we've been moving around a lot, so we're a little bit hungry, said Naruto. Well, we're sort of looking for Rainbow Dash so that she could tell us how she got her cutie mark, said Sweetie Belle. The cutie mark? Come with me and I'll tell you how I got mine. Every pony turned to look at Scootaloo for the final decision. She let out a groan and finally nodded in agreement as she turned her scooter in the direction of Sugar Cube Corner. All right. Flashback start. My sisters and I were raised on a rock farm outside of Ponyville. We spent our days working the fields. There was no talking, there was no smiling, there were only rocks, said Pinkie Pie. Young Pinkie Pie could be seen rolling a piece of rock towards a pile that she made, only that she looked gloomy and her mane draped over her shoulders. She was about to move another rock onto the pile when she heard a loud boom and a strong gust of wind blew over the fields and even made her droopy mane curly. Pinkie Pie looked up to see clear blue skies and a beautiful rainbow which brought a smile to her face after a very long time. I'd never felt joy like that before. It felt so good. I wanted everyone to learn how to smile too, but rainbows don't come along that often. I wondered how else could I create some smiles, said Pinkie Pie. Young Pinkie Pie was deep in thought before coming upon an idea as she ran off to somewhere else. The next morning, her parents and sisters came out of their home for another day of work at the rock farm. We'd better harvest the rocks from the south field, said the father, who is Igneous Rock Pie. Suddenly they heard music coming from the silo. Pinkamena Diane Pie. Is that you? Said the mother, Cloudy Quartz. The door opened and Pinkie Pie her head out to talk to the mom. I need you and dad and the sisters to come in. Quick. She darted back inside for her family to follow. They entered the silo and were surprised to see colorful streamers, balloons and cakes all around. Surprise. You like it? It's called a party. She blew a tweeter, but then they just stood there with blank looks, which made her smile fall a bit. Oh, you don't like it? Young Pinkie Pie looked up again to see their lips quivering before they broke into smiles. Oh, you do like it. I'm happy. Then they all danced to the music and a cutie mark of 3 balloons with curled strings appeared on her flank. Flashback end. And that's how Equestria was made, said Pinkie Pie. Scootaloo stopped the scooter and even Naruto almost tripped himself as they both turned to stare at Pinkie Pie in disbelief. Waha, said Scootaloo. Look. We're here. Apple Bloom spoke up. They look to see that they're standing right in front of Sugar Cube Corner. Maybe on the way home I can tell you the story of how I got my cutie mark. It's a gem. Pinkie Pie got off the wagon and happily hopped inside. Scootaloo was about to say something when Naruto beat her to it. Don't bother, Scoots, trying to figure Pinks out is an impossibility. Let's just go inside. Okay big bro, said Scootaloo. They entered the shop and saw that Twilight and the others there, including the one whom they had been looking for all this time, which made Scootaloo brighten up. Rainbow Dash. You're here. I hear you're looking for my cutie mark story, said Rainbow Dash as she walked towards them. You have no idea what I've been through today to hear that story. Scootaloo sat on the floor. That was pretty much their objective today, though we also got hear how the others got their cutie marks as well. And you happen to be the last one, said Naruto with a smile. Well, it all started during the race at flight camp, said Rainbow Dash. Flashback start. Where I stood alone against all odds to defend Fluttershy's honor. Young Rainbow Dash stood at the starting line alongside Hoops and Dumbbell ready to race. The moment Fluttershy waved the flag to signal the start of the race, the 3 Pegasus took off in a blur and sent Fluttershy spinning of the cloud. So far Rainbow Dash ahead and looked back to see Dumbbell and Hoops keeping up, which made her want to go even faster. She passed through Cloud Ring and quickly took a right sharp turn, but Dumbbell was a little too slow to react and ended up crashing through a pillar. I've never flown like that before. The freedom was unlike anything I've ever felt. The speed, the adrenaline, the wind in my mane, I liked it a lot, said Rainbow Dash. Suddenly Hoops came out of nowhere and knocked her out of the way. Ha. Later Rainbow Crash. Then he dived for the final Cloud Ring. Hey. Rainbow Dash dived for the goal as well and was catching up with him. Turns out the only thing I liked better than flying fast was winning. She easily brushed past Hoops and was just going faster and faster, but still didn't stop pouring it on. Right when she passed through the final cloud and pulled up into the sky. Rainbow Dash had actually broken through the sound barrier, which resulted in a loud explosion and a rainbow appearing across the sky. Most ponies thought that the sonic rainbow was just an old mare's tale. But that day, the day I discovered racing, I proved that the legends are true. As young Rainbow Dash was flying with a grin on her face, a cutie mark of a cloud with a slightly curved 3-colored lightning bolt, and every pony was cheering for her. I made the impossible happen. Flashback end. And that, little ones, is how you earn a cutie mark, said Rainbow Dash with pride. Buaya. The Crusaders simply looked at her with stars in their eyes. That's pretty cool, Dash, but I've noticed something interesting about your story as well as the others, said Naruto. What do you mean by that, Naruto? Asked Twilight curiously. I've listened to all of your stories, and I've noticed that you girls either saw a rainbow or heard a loud boom. AJ, Shy and Pink saw a rainbow and heard a boom, while Rare and Twilight heard a boom before they got their cutie marks. So if Rainbow Dash hadn't scared the animals, I never would have been able to communicate with them and gotten my cutie mark, said Fluttershy. If she hadn't made that rainbow, I never would have learned how to smile and make others smile too, said Pinkie Pie while hopping around. I wouldn't have thought of going home if I didn't see that rainbow, said Applejack. My true calling as a fashionista would have never come to be if not for that explosion, said Rarity. If it weren't for that boom, I would have failed my entrance exam and never got taken in by Princess Celestia as her apprentice. That means we all got our cutie marks because of your Rainbow Dash, said Twilight. Rainbow Dash was surprised to hear that. Really? She turned to Naruto, who nodded with a smile to confirm it. Yeah. We all owe our cutie marks to you, said Pinkie Pie. We all had a connection before we even met, said Fluttershy. We've been friends for a very long time and didn't even know it, said Rarity. Oh, come here y'all. Applejack had them all in a group hug while Naruto stood beside the fillies and was smiling at them. Then he heard Apple Bloom speak out. Too bad, we don't get to hear your cutie mark story, Naruto, said Apple Bloom. Yes, since we already know how you got yours, said Sweetie Belle. Naruto shrugged his shoulders before smiling again. True, but that doesn't mean I don't have a story to tell. What kind of story, big bro? Asked Scootaloo curiously. I can tell you of the adventures of when I was still in my old world. But I thought we saw everything back when you showed us your memories, said Twilight confusedly. What you girls saw were the milestones of my life before I came to Equestria. And I'm sure you love this story I'm about to tell you, said Naruto with a smirk. Tell us, tell us, tell us, tell us, tell us, said Pinkie Pie hopping excitedly. One day, my teammates and I had just completed a mission and were leaving the Hokage Tower. After reporting in, Naruto began his tale. Flashback start. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke were walking along the street away from the Hokage Tower. Naruto's face was scrunched as if in deep thought before speaking out. I believe the time has finally come, said Naruto. What are you talking about? What time? Asked Sakura. For us to see Kakashi's true face. Why would you want to do that? Come on, Sakura, I'm sure the first time you saw him you wondered what was underneath that mask. Well, I can't deny that I want to know what was under that mask. Please, that sounds so lame. We finished our mission for the day, so I'm going home. Sasuke turned and was walking away from them. I knew that Sasuke wouldn't be interested, but I had a way to draw him in hook, line and sinker, said Naruto. Naruto whispered out, what if he has lips like a blimp? This made Sasuke freeze in mid-step. Naruto snickered when he saw him twitched as if indecisive of what to do next and knew that he just needed one more push or maybe buck teeth. Then Sasuke did a U-turn and walked back on second thought. This could serve as training for when we should gather information from the enemy. So does anyone have an idea? Asked Sakura. I do, said Naruto. Later on, they invited Kakashi to eat with them at Ichiraku Ramen, where they paid for the meal for him. You three treating me to lunch. That's pretty unusual. You guys up to something, aren't you? Said Kakashi as he looked at them. They stiffened a bit due to how accurate the question was. What do you mean by that? Said Naruto. Yeah, we just wanted to treat you as a way of appreciation. So go ahead and eat, said Sakura. Oh well, I suppose I should just dig in, said Kakashi as Tucci served up the bowl of ramen. This certainly looks delicious. They pretended to look forward, but their eyes solely on him as he took a pair of chopsticks and slowly reached for his mask and was about to pull it down. Hi Sasuke. What a coincidence, Ino, Shikamaru and Choji came in, completely obstructing their view. Ay. They all screamed as they tried to move them out of the way. Get out of the way, Ino pig, shouted Sakura. Oh man. I can't see squat, shouted Naruto. They finally got them out of the way and looked only to see the mask back on and bowl completely empty. I'm all done, said Kakashi. Whoa, that's fast, said the trio simultaneously with looks of surprise. Kakashi looked at them curiously. Is something wrong? Oh, nothing at all, what makes you say that? Said Sakura. Then they noticed that Tucci and his daughter Am were looking at Kakashi with blushes on their faces, which meant that they had seen what was underneath the mask. Okay, now I'm curious, they said simultaneously again. Afterwards, Sasuke suggested that we tail him around for the day, that he might take off the mask and we'll be there to see it. The first time was a failure as we ended up getting found, so we decided to shadow him individually this time, said Naruto. Naruto was the first. He was using the buildings and other objects to hide while following Kakashi, who was reading a book along the way. But when they reached a junction, Kakashi disappeared, leaving Naruto clueless as to where he went. Sakura was next as she staking him out at the memorial stone on a rainy. She was getting impatient as she noticed that he was barely moving a muscle, which raised suspicions. She jumped out of the trees and ran to check on him, only to see that it was nothing but a dummy the whole time. Well, for Sasuke, he gave up after shadowing him for who knows how long. The next day we got a mission to help out at a farm. That wasn't a big deal, since our true mission was to see Kakashi-sensei's real face. Along the way, we made a stop at an inn to rest and were served a delicious banquet. Kakashi noticed that his students weren't making any attempt to eat the food. What's the matter with you guys? No one is picking up their chopsticks. Oh, it's nothing, Kakashi-sensei, don't wait upon us. Go ahead and eat, said Sakura. Actually, I'm kinda on a diet right now. Playing hard to get, huh? Well, that mask is coming off one way or another, thought Naruto. He reached for a kettle of hot tea. My hand slipped, then he tossed in a way that was anything but accidental. When it drew close, Kakashi quickly flipped the table over to block it, but that in turn spilled all of the food to the floor. Are you out of your mind? Sakura yelled angrily. Sorry about that, my hand slipped. Kakashi rubbed the back of his head while looking sheepish. What do you mean your hand slipped? The trio yelled at him. Then they gathered in another room to discuss their next move. So any ideas? Asked Sakura. Don't worry, I've got a plan, said Sasuke with a small smile. Naruto and Sakura listened in on his idea. Later on, Naruto and Sasuke were in a hot spring waiting for Kakashi to show. Unfortunately for Sakura, she had to go to the women's side of the bath, which means that she won't get to see Kakashi's face. This is a great idea, there's no way he'll come in here with his mask on, said Naruto. Of course he won't, said Sasuke. Hey guys, I'm coming in. Upon hearing his voice, the two boys turned their attention to see a silhouette and knew that it was Kakashi. They rose out of the water as the mist cleared only to reveal him wearing a towel around his face. Phew, it's hot in here, just coming in for a minute. Naruto and Sasuke fell backwards into the water. You've got to be kidding, they both said at the same time. Afterwards, we left the inn mentally exhausted and continued our way to the farm where we began the mission, said Naruto. The trio gathered around for another meeting. I don't think I can take any more of this, said Naruto. I'm reaching my limit too, said Sasuke. Me too, and that makes 3 of us, said Sakura. Then in that case, desperate times calls for desperate measures, said Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura looked at him in curiosity. A minute later, they were wearing grey camouflage ninja outfits, although they appear to be a bit too big for them. What's with the clothes and where did you get them? Asked Sakura. We're posing as rogue ninja, and there's no need to wonder where I got them, okay? Said Naruto. The truth was that he stole them from the changing room back at the hot spring. So what's the idea with the outfit? Asked Sasuke. We rip the mask off by force if we have to. Then we charged in and attacked Kakashi-sensei, but then someone else showed up from out of nowhere, said Naruto. Hold it right there. A trio of ninja wearing the same outfit which Naruto swiped stepped in, with one of them holding a purple bottle with a yellow label. The time has come for you to pay for your transgressions, Kakashi. With this elixir, you will cry uncontrollably until why. He didn't finish his sentence when he saw Kakashi holding up Naruto and the others who tied up with one hand. I was wondering when you guys would stop hiding and show yourselves, said Kakashi before putting them down, but first things first, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke. Why on earth are you dressed like that? We knew that we had to come up with an excuse. Luckily Sakura was able to come up with a good one. Aha. We knew that you were targeting Kakashi-sensei and you fell right into our trap, said Sakura. You mean you knew of our intentions from the very beginning? Said one of the ninjas. Of course we did, all this was to lure you out and you fell for it hook, line and sinker. She continued. Brat, we underestimated just because they were kids, said the other ninjas. I don't really get what's going on, but whatever, said Kakashi as he walked towards the trio who were backing away from him before falling backwards. Oh please forgive us, the 3 ninjas said as they bowed to him. Words aren't going to help you here, Kakashi leaned forward ominously, which made them cower in fear, and in the next 10 minutes they were beaten and hung up like a pinata. After finishing the work on the farm, the team were on their way back to the village. Hey Kakashi-sensei, what are you hiding under that mask? Asked Naruto. Oh, so you want to know what's behind my mask? Asked Kakashi. Yeah. Well, if you wanted to know, I would have shown you. You mean that you'll let us see it? Asked Sakura excitedly. Sure, I don't mind, said Kakashi. They gathered closely together with their eyes wide in anticipation. Although it felt like we wasted this whole time, we didn't care as we finally got to see his true face, said Naruto. Alright, behind this mask is, Kakashi reached up for the mask and was about to bring it down. Is it blimp lips? Sakura thought. Or buck teeth? Sasuke thought. Or a tiny mouth? Naruto thought. Kakashi pulled it down to reveal a faded mask underneath another mask. Pretty cool, right? What? Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke screamed out loud before collapsing with a loud thud, and Kakashi was laughing. Are you kidding me? What the heck kind of ending is that? Naruto said angrily. Flashback end. After that we went through, we never got to see under that darn mask, said Naruto with a dark cloud over his head. He looked up to see every pony laughing out loud. Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash were rolling on the ground while the rest were trying to contain their giggles, even the fillies was among them, and Naruto joined in with the laughter. That was so funny Naru. Can we hear another one? Said Pinkie Pie while she was still laughing. Maybe next time Pinks, and besides it's getting late, said Naruto. You're right, I need to head back to the farm and make sure that those thieving varmints don't show up to steal my apples again, said Applejack. I need to make sure that the animals are okay, said Fluttershy. I have a deadline to meet for an important customer, said Rarity. I have to recheck my schedule for the week, said Twilight. I have to plan for another party in the future, said Pinkie Pie. And I gotta head home and rest so that I can practice my tricks tomorrow, said Rainbow Dash. After bidding each other farewell, they all went to their homes and Naruto with Scootaloo to theirs, where they met Trixie who had just closed from the shop. Naruto tucked Scootaloo into bed before walking to the workshop. He placed a hoof on a seal drawn on the table and applied chakra to it. There was a puff of smoke before it cleared to reveal a stack of photos. He picked one up with his magic and smiled warmly at it. It was a photo of Team 7, showing him scowling at Sasuke who was looking away from the camera, Sakura standing in the middle smiling and Kakashi smiling and placing his hands on his and Sasuke's head. Like they said, we all share a connection which even transcends worlds and have memories to remind us of the good times we had back then, Naruto before closing his eyes to reminisce of his time back in the Hidden Leaf Village. In another dimension, a raven-haired boy stands before a large stone with many names inscribed on it and has his eyes focused on a particular name. In his hand is a scroll, and he looked up to the night sky and spoke one word Naruto. Chapter end. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Peace out.